On July 1st, 2024, a merger between two of the largest amusement park chains in North America became official, and what we have now is one of the largest amusement park chains in the entire world. We have the brand new Six Flags Entertainment Corporation. So now we are 1 year into this merger, and this video is going to go over everything that's happened so far and what it looks like is going to happen in the near future. We're going to run down everything and try to give a grade. Is this an A? Is this an F? Or is this an incomplete? We're going to go over it all in this video, so stay tuned. But before we get into all that, we'd like to say thank you for coming and joining us. If you're new to this channel, please consider subscribing. Comment down below, like the video. Those things help against the YouTube algorithm. And of course, a shout out to all our channel members. So if you want to check out what the channel membership brings you, go down into the description and there's a link and you can check that out yourself. So now into this video, we are 1 year into something that like a lot of people probably never thought would actually happen in the first place.
Yeah, even whenever people started talking about it, it was still like, is this actually going to happen, or is this just one of the, crazy things that people talk about and there's rumors about, but it never actually happens? Because, there's a lot of proposed mergers and stuff like that happens. But there's a lot of people that still didn't think that this would ever happen, but obviously it did. Yeah, it's done. It's been done for a year, like we said. So I think there's so much to go over in this video, and I think what we're going to try to do is condense it into something as easy to understand and as flowy as possible, because I could really see us rambling on and on about like each subject, because each thing is like such like there's so much to talk about. Yeah, and like so many different parks that have so many different stuff going on, all that. So
yeah, so okay. Into this video now, I think where we can start off is, I don't know, I guess like the basics of this merger. So this merger happened between two parks that were both about $2 billion in debt. Now, my math isn't the greatest, but if you have two parks, $2 billion in debt, that means you have a new one park with $4 billion in debt.
Wow, advanced math we're doing here.
CEO Richard Zimmerman has a big job on his hands. He feels like it's his mission and his responsibility and duties to get that debt down as low as possible. And if you know the basics about finance, you'll know there's only two ways to really bring down debt, and that is to cut costs or to bring in more money. And Finance 101, if you're making a budget for your home or anything like that, and you're going over budget each month and getting into debt, anyone that does finance for a living will tell you the easiest way to bring down debt is to cut costs, because it's easier to do that than to bring in money. That's also a lot faster. So that, I think, is what we've been seeing over the past year. And unfortunately for us park goers, that means that a lot of headaches. Now, will those headaches continue on in the future? That remains to be seen. But right now, we've seen things from, like, our home park is Cedar Point. We're at Cedar Point a lot. And I've already noticed that a lot of rides where you would normally have like a couple extra ride operators working on a ride, now you have like one or two people doing the job of like 4 or 5 people. Mm-hmm. The budget cuts in staffing. And I think it's well known that all the presidents have been eliminated from like all the parks. Mm-hmm. So now what you're getting...
regional.
You're getting more regional operators and managers and PR people. They're looking to save money. By doing that, you're cutting people's jobs. So like people just like you and me are affected by this. People are going from having a job to becoming jobless, or at the best, a lot of people are going from full-time positions down to part-time positions. And what this is doing to the parks as park goers is it's making the experience not as good, because not only in like the parts that we see as guests, like ride operators, but all sorts of like positions in parks, what you normally have 10 people doing, now you probably have like 2 people doing. So things aren't going to run as smoothly in these parks. And also what we're seeing is dealing with the staffing. A lot of closed, I just watched a Tower Topics video, and this video is from Tower Topics. They got some closed locations at Kings Island. Now, we've always gone to Kings Island multiple times a year, and it's always been a decent park for having many things open.
Yeah, Kings Island's always kind of known for that, especially, if you compare it to Cedar Point, which is obviously the other big amusement park in Ohio. Kings Island's kind of known for having a lot more stuff open usually, but still now I guess they are
their food stands are starting the food stands starting to close,
and that stuff you never we've been, like you said, we go to Kings Island a lot. That's something that you really don't see much at all, is just random food stands closing because of staffing and all that.
So ultimately I think the guest experience is going to be lower right now, probably over the next couple of years, because I don't see this changing anytime in the immediate future. So slower ride operations, less food stands, less drink stands, stuff like that. The picture booths, if you wanted your picture from a ride, a lot of those will end up being closed, where in the past they would be open. So a lot of things that directly affect the customer experience, and also the customer experience, especially enthusiasts, they've been shutting down rides.
Yeah, and not just small rides. They shut down the world's tallest and second fastest coaster, King Ka, most notably, and also a lot of other coasters at Great Adventure, specifically, among other parks.
And all that's being done in a mission to bring that debt down. So from a business standpoint, you get it. And unfortunately, like I said, cutting costs is the much faster way to bring down debt opposed to bringing in more money. But we are going to talk about the bright side, the bringing in more money, a little bit later in this video. Right now we're going over the doom and gloom. But yeah, all these rides shutting down. You do have Nighthawk at Carowinds, which we did a video a couple years ago, well before the merger was thought about, and talking about how they were planning on shutting down Nighthawk. And this is what we're predicting.
Yes.
We think that it's going to be bye-bye Nighthawk.
Bye-bye Nighthawk.
Bye-bye. So I don't think that that's necessarily a product of the merger, but there have been other
and there
other rides.
Yeah, and not only rides, but parks. Six Flags America, which is...
That was the next topic right there.
Yeah, it's not only rides, but entire parks are closing.
Yeah, so you have Six Flags America, which is right by Washington, D.C. Six Flags found that the property is worth more than keeping the park open, so they're selling off the land. I don't know. I can't say this with absolute certainty, but from the recent investor relations presentation that they did, it really sounds like they are dead set on closing more parks.
Yeah, I mean, nobody was surprised that parks... At least, we got news that parks are closing because, they started saying that they are going to close parks. So, yeah, I would imagine that Six Flags America won't be the only park to close. It'll be the only park to close this year. But next year, I'm sure there'll be maybe multiple more. I don't know. Yeah,
maybe one or two more or something like that. And we don't know if they'll end up closing or if they'll end up being sold off to another chain or another operator.
Six Flags America is being sold off. It's not being sold, or it's not being another...
It's being closed down completely.
It's being closed down, yeah. It's not being sold. It's being closed down completely.
So right now we're going over a lot of the headaches that is involved in this merger. So far you'd probably be like, at the beginning of the video, you said A, F, or incomplete. Right now, you'd probably be screaming F, F, F.
Yeah, because everything has looked really bad so far, and but there is good. There is good with the merger.
Yeah. So let's get into some of the good, or at least the hopeful good. So we talked about making money. So one of the ways that they talked about wanting to make money is by bringing up attendance, and they specifically talked about some of their higher population area parks. So you're talking about Magic Mountain, you're talking about Great Adventure, you're talking about Six Flags Over Texas. Some of these parks are underperforming in their eyes, and they look at as parks that they could definitely up the attendance because they're in such large regions of the country, like especially Great Adventure. who is supposed to be getting some pretty large investments, and we'll talk about that here in a little bit and in another video specifically that we're going to be doing all about their addition coming up in the near future. But Great Adventure is right in between New York City and Philadelphia. And New York City is the largest city in the country. Philadelphia might be fifth or something like that.
It's up there.
They're pretty high up. So you have millions and millions of people literally within like an hour or two drive of Great Adventure. This should be one of their biggest parks in the chain.
Yeah.
If not maybe the biggest park in the chain.
And it technically has been underperforming.
And of course, with King Ka closing, and you mentioned a bunch of other rides closing, this year seems to be like, we haven't been there this year, but from what I hear going around from everybody is that the park is not doing any numbers this year.
Right. I mean,
And you can't blame people either.
Yeah. I mean, people are pretty mad that they closed a bunch of rides, and they got Flash, obviously, which people really like, but I know there's a lot of issues. Obviously, it's a shuttle coaster, one train, so that ride gets long lines. But yeah, people are pretty upset about all the rides closing, especially King Ka, and people have a right to be upset because that's a pretty big deal, closing a roller coaster that big.
But they definitely are looking to invest with this record-breaking 2026 coaster, which, newsflash, it won't be opening in 2026 probably. It'll probably be a 2027 roller coaster, but this isn't about that park in particular. But going down to Six Flags Over Texas, they are getting a Giga dive coaster.
Yeah, which will be the first in the entire world. And you were saying, because Over Texas is in that Dallas Arlington area, which is obviously very populated, and like you were saying earlier, they want to drive up the numbers on those parks in heavily populated areas. And Fiesta Texas is performing better than Over Texas, and Fiesta Texas is in a much smaller city. So they want to bring up the guests at Over Texas, so they are getting a massive coaster. I mean, they're getting a Giga coaster, which, there's obviously
not many
only,
of those.
only like 7 of them in the world, so that will probably bring up attendance.
Yeah, so what they're going to try to do at these parks that they consider underperforming is create these attractions that they feel will get talk and get word of mouth and get people into the park. And even though a lot of people watching this video are probably enthusiasts, just like us, so dive coasters aren't like the most exciting thing in the world.
Still, I mean, everybody's going to talk about hanging over the drop 300 feet in the air. People freak out at dive coasters now that are between 100 or 200 feet or, whatever they are. But hanging over a 300-foot drop is definitely going to get a lot of people talking.
And it'll bring in the GP, the general public, into the parks.
Mm-hmm. And enthusiasts, because I think people want to ride Giga coasters, even if it is a B&M dive coaster. Yeah.
Magic Mountain is supposed to be getting their Thrill Glide coaster, which I don't think anyone is still 100% sure of what that is.
Yeah, I think people were probably kind of imagining like FOIF Fantasyland, but yeah, it's still kind of uncertain exactly what that ride is going to be like, but it should be a good investment into the park. Yeah,
so they'll be getting an investment. So all these parks that we talked about will be getting some major investment. And now that doesn't necessarily mean like big roller coasters, because Richard Zimmerman does realize that bringing in the families is also what drives long-term growth in a park. So you might see some like uptick in some family rides a lot because they're cheaper also. More food options because they want to draw in revenue and bring down that debt. So creating better food options is something that will make people maybe spend a little bit more money in the park. So all this stuff, it's some growing pains at the moment, but hopefully when that debt starts to get down into a more reasonable number, maybe we'll start to, maybe they'll get a little bit more ambitious in things.
Yeah,
and maybe you'll see some smaller parks get some investment.
Right.
And
that's the hope, and that's what I would assume. I don't know. They merged to help each company, so I get why that's their main focus right now, but hopefully when both companies start to really level out and do well, like you said, hopefully they'll start to bring in some more investments and hopefully get the staffing better and maybe pay employees better.
Yes, that's another thing.
Yeah,
that's for another video.
Yeah. So, so they can have better operations and more stuff opening at all their parks. So that's the hope, that it'll eventually turn into something like that, hopefully pretty soon.
So Six Flags was always known for like having like the M&M stairs at Magic Mountain and stuff. People always mock that.
Yeah.
But Six Flags always had the relationship with Mars, which is Snickers and M&Ms and stuff like that. So now that Six Flags is the entire chain, so Cedar Point is now part of that chain. So now they have that relationship. So now, to bring in more money, you have Hollow Weekends at Cedar Point, sponsored by Snickers.
Yes. So no, we will not be getting Six Flags Cedar Point, Six Flags Knott's Berry Farm, but we are getting Hollow Weekends presented by Snickers, and probably Knott's Scary Farm presented by, M&M's or whatever.
Yeah.
So we are getting that. I doubt there'll be M&M stairs at a lot of parks like there is at Magic Mountain, but we will see some of those.
As long as they keep it to a minimum and don't like make it gaudy,
right?
And like make it like just disgusting.
I mean, they had a giant, I forget whatever M&M, whatever it was, like banner on the free spin at Great Adventure or something like that. It was pretty crazy. So
we don't need anything like that.
Yeah, we don't. If they want to do Hollow Weekends presented by whatever, then that's whatever. But don't make anything just outrageous like Six Flags has been known for doing.
Yeah, so if we do it like this and it's just presented by and they do a few advertisements, and that is more money and that is a quicker time frame to
having that
getting back to normal.
Yeah, having that presented by Snickers is more money for Six Flags, which means more roller coasters.
That's a decent way to look at it. I just don't want Top Thrill 2 to have like a big M&M hanging off of it.
Which it could.
I hope not. But anyway, so ultimately wrapping up this video, a grade. I think I know what grade I want to give. What grade do you wish to give them at this moment?
At this moment right now?
Yes.
Probably like a C minus D plus.
Okay. C minus D plus
because right now everything looks bad. They're closing rides. There are some good stuff that has happened like immediately. Georgia Gold Rush. They did like the re-theme and stuff. Cedar Fair made them. Made it so it's themed a little bit better. I mean, there's been some small good stuff that's happened, but overall right now it's been pretty bad.
All right, my grade I think is going to be just a little bit different than that, but first why don't you guys leave a comment down below. What grade do you think that Six Flags Entertainment Corporation has earned in its first year of existence? I think I'm going to be nice and give it an incomplete.
Oh, incomplete. Oh, yeah. Well, if we were doing incomplete, then I would give it an incomplete.
Well, at the beginning, do not listen to what I say at the beginning of the video. I said incomplete.
Okay. I'll switch it to incomplete.
Oh, look at him.
But if we gave it a letter grade right now, it would be D plus or something like that. I can. But it is very obviously incomplete because of everything we said in this video.
Yeah. So.
But you said right at this moment.
Okay. Well, then my mistake then. So. Anyway, that is it for this video. Hope you enjoyed it. Like we said, like and comment, subscribe, do all that stuff. And we'll see you guys next time right here on Beach Cliff Studios.